I never thought a Tuesday morning could unravel a life so completely. But then again, I never thought my daughter would be the one to pull the first thread. It started like any other day in our suburban house on Maple Drive. The coffee maker gurgled its familiar morning song. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows in those golden slants that made everything look picture perfect, and my husband Marcus was running late for work. Again. "Babe, have you seen my charger?" he called from upstairs, his voice carrying that slightly frantic edge it always got when he was behind schedule. I was scrambling eggs, trying to get our youngest, Jake, to finish his cereal before the bus came. "Did you check your nightstand?" I yelled back, flipping the eggs with practiced efficiency in. "Found it!" Moments later, Marcus thundered down the stairs, his tie slightly askew, briefcase in one hand, travel mug in the other. At 42, he still had that boyish energy that had attracted me to him 17 years ago, even if the hairline had receded a bit and the laugh lines had deepened. He kissed me quickly, tasting of mint toothpaste. "Love you, Claire. Big presentation today. Might be late." "You've got this," I said, squeezing his hand. "Knock 'em dead." He ruffled Jake's hair, earning a groan from our 8-year-old, and headed for the door. That's when his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. He'd left it behind in his rush, sitting there between the fruit bowl and the stack of unopened mail. "Marcus," I called, but the door had already slammed shut. I heard the car engine roar to life, then fade as he pulled out of the driveway. I looked at the phone. He'd need it for his presentation, for the calls he'd inevitably have to make. I grabbed my own phone to text him, then remembered he wouldn't see it without his device. The presentation was at 10. If I left now, I could probably catch him at the office. "Jake, bus in 5 minutes," I said, checking the time. "Where's your sister?" "Still in her room," he mumbled through a mouthful of cereal. Zoe, our 15-year-old daughter, who had recently discovered that sleeping until the last possible second was her new favorite hobby. I headed toward the stairs just as she emerged from her room, still in her pajamas, hair a mess of dark curls identical to mine. "Mum, I don't feel good," she said, but her eyes were clear and her color was fine. "Nice try. You have that English test today, remember?" She groaned dramatically, a skill all teenagers seem to master. "It's just vocab. I know it already." "Then you'll ace it. Get dressed. Now." She trudged back to her room with the enthusiasm of someone heading to their execution. I'd learned not to take it personally. Ever since she'd started high school this year, everything had become a negotiation, every morning a small battle. My friends with older kids had warned me, but you never really understand teenage mood swings until you're living with one. Quirky. I managed to get both kids on their respective buses, then stared at Marcus's phone on the counter. I could drop it off, but I had a client meeting at 11. I ran a small interior design business from home, and today's client was potentially a big one. A full house renovation in the expensive part of town. The phone buzzed again, then again. Without thinking, I picked it up. The lock screen showed 3 new messages, all from the same number. No name attached, just a number. The preview of the latest one was visible. "We need to talk about last night." My stomach did a small flip. Last night, Marcus had said he was working late, finishing prep for today's presentation. He'd gotten home around 11 exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open as he kissed me goodnight, and collapsed into bed. I told myself it was nothing. A colleague, someone from the presentation team. "We need to talk about last night" could mean anything. Maybe they'd had a planning session. Maybe there was an issue with the slides. But that number had no name. Marcus was meticulous about his contacts. Everyone was labelled, categorised, work people had their companies listed, family members had photos. The fact that this was just a number felt deliberate. I set the phone down like it had burned me. This was crazy. I'd trusted Marcus. We'd been married for 16 years, together for 17. We'd built a life, raised 2 kids, weathered the storms that every marriage faces. He wasn't the type to... To what? I wasn't even letting myself finish the thought. The phone buzzed again. I picked it up, my hands suddenly shaky, and this time I swiped to see more of the message. The phone was unlocked. Marcus had disabled his passcode last month after forgetting it too many times and locking himself out. Another message appeared. "Marcus, please, I can't keep doing this. You said you'd figure it out." My heart was hammering now. Figure what out? I shouldn't look. This was a violation of privacy, of trust, but my fingers were already moving, opening the messages thread, scrolling up through the history. What I saw made the kitchen tilt around me. Weeks of messages, dozens of them. Not explicit. Nothing crude but intimate in a way that made my chest tighten. References to meeting up. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Pet names that weren't mine. And then, from 3 nights ago, "I've never felt this way before. You make me feel alive again." Marcus's response, "You have no idea what you do to me." I sat down hard on one of the kitchen chairs, the phone still in my trembling hands. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. But the evidence was right there, message after message, painting a picture I couldn't unsee. 17 years, 2 kids, a mortgage, a life we'd built together brick by careful brick, and he was throwing it away for someone whose name he wouldn't even save in his phone. The rational part of my brain tried to find alternative explanations. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe the messages were taken out of context. Maybe this was some kind of elaborate joke or another message popped up. "I'm falling in love with you." I dropped the phone on the table and put my head in my hands. No alternative explanation could explain that away. I don't know how long I sat there, long enough for the coffee to go cold in my mug, long enough for the sun to shift angles through the window, long enough for my shock to start crystallizing into something else, something hot and sharp and dangerous. I picked up the phone again, my vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall. I scrolled through more messages, looking for a name, any identifying information. The person, I assumed it was a woman, but I couldn't even be sure of that, was careful. No photos, no specific locations mentioned, nothing concrete. Just these messages that read like pages torn from someone else's romance novel. And Marcus. My Marcus, who kissed me every morning, who attended Jake's soccer games and Zoe's school plays, who held my hand during movies and told me I was beautiful even on my worst days. How could this be the same person who wrote these messages? I was about to scroll further when I heard a car in the driveway. Panic seized me. Marcus must have realized he'd forgotten his phone, must have come back for it. I wasn't ready to face him. Not yet. Not until I knew what I was going to say, what I was going to do. But when I peeked out the window, it wasn't Marcus's black sedan. It was Zoe. She was getting out of someone's car, another parent doing a drop-off. I quickly set Marcus's phone down and wiped my eyes, trying to compose myself. Why was Zoe home? She walked in, her backpack slung over one shoulder, and immediately noticed my face. Despite all the teenage attitude, Zoe had always been perceptive. It was something she'd inherited from my mother, who could read people like they were books written in her native language. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Nothing, honey. Why are you home? Did something happen at school?" She hesitated, and I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or concern. I really wasn't feeling well. Mrs. Patterson let me go to the nurse and she called Mrs. Chen to bring me home since you had your phone on silent. I glanced at my phone. Sure enough, 3 missed calls from the school nurse. "I'm sorry I didn't hear it. What's wrong? Do you need to see a doctor?" "No, it's just cramps, you know." She looked away, embarrassed, and I felt a pang of guilt. Here I was, drowning in my own crisis, and my daughter had needed me. "Okay, go lie down. I'll bring you some ibuprofen and a heating pad." She nodded and headed towards the stairs, but then she stopped. Her eyes had landed on Marcus's phone, still sitting on the kitchen table, the screen dark but present. "Dad forgot his phone?" she asked. "Yeah, he was rushing this morning." Something in my voice must have been off because Zoe gave me a long look. "Are you sure you're okay?" "I'm fine, sweetie, just tired. Go rest." She lingered for another moment, then headed upstairs. I heard her bedroom door close. I looked back at Marcus's phone, my hands shaking again. I needed to know more. I needed to understand the full scope of what was happening before I confronted him. But I also couldn't keep looking without falling apart. I decided to take photos of the messages with my own phone. Evidence. If this was really happening, if my marriage was really crumbling, I'd need proof, not for any legal reason. We lived in a no-fault divorce state, but for myself. To remember that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined this. I started taking screenshots, working backward through the conversations. Some messages were mundane, running 10 minutes late or can't wait to see you. But others were devastating, references to hotels, to secret meetings, to a future that apparently didn't include me. I was so focused on the phone that I didn't hear Zoe come back downstairs until she was right beside me. Mom, She stopped mid-sentence. She was looking at Marcus's phone, at the message thread still open on the screen. I saw her eyes scan the text, saw them widen as comprehension dawned. Zoe, I started, but I didn't know how to finish. What is that? Her voice was small, younger than 15. I closed the message thread quickly, but it was too late. She'd seen enough. It's nothing. Adult stuff. Don't worry about it, eh? But Zoe wasn't a child anymore, and she wasn't stupid. That's Dad's phone. Those messages. Mom, is Dad? Zoe, please. I need you to go to your room. I'll handle this. Her face was pale, shocked. He's cheating on you. The word hung in the air between us, ugly and undeniable. Neither of us had said it out loud until now, and hearing it from my daughter's lips made it impossibly real. I don't know what's happening yet, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. But I need to figure it out, okay? And I need you to not say anything to your father or to Jake. Can you do that for me? Tears were forming in her eyes. How could he do this to you? To us? I pulled her into a hug and she let me, her body stiff with shock and anger. I don't know, baby, but I'm going to find out. And we're going to be okay no matter what happens. I promise you that. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. I should have stayed at school. No, I'm glad you're here. And surprisingly, I meant it. As much as I wanted to protect Zoe from this ugliness, there was something steadying about having her there. I wasn't alone in this moment. I had my daughter. And she was looking at me like I was the strongest person in the world, even though I felt like I was shattering. What are you going to do? She asked. I'm going to talk to your father when he gets home. Do you want me to, should I? She struggled to find the words. Just be here. Be you. That's all I need right now. She nodded slowly, then glanced back at the phone. Can I see? Zoe, I don't think... I already saw some of it, and he's my dad too. I have a right to know if he's destroying our family. The maturity in her voice caught me off guard. She was right in a way. This affected her too. This affected all of us, but I also wanted to shield her from the worst of it. Not all of it, I said finally, but I'll show you enough that you understand what's happening. We sat down together at the kitchen table, and I opened the message thread again. I scrolled to some of the less intimate messages, the ones that were more logistical than emotional. But even those told a story. He's been seeing someone, Zoe said, her voice hollow. For how long? I checked the earliest messages in the thread. At least 2 months, maybe longer if they were using a different number before this. 2 months? She said it like she was testing the weight of the words. He's been lying to us for 2 months. We don't know the full story yet, I said, even though I wasn't sure why I was defending him. Habit, maybe. Or hope that there was still some explanation that would make this less catastrophic. Zoe scrolled through more messages, her expression hardening with each one. Then she stopped on something, her finger hovering over the screen. Mom, look at this. It was a message from Marcus, dated 3 weeks ago. I told her I'm working late again, meeting you at the usual place at 8. Her. He'd called me her. Not my wife, not Claire, just her, like I was an obstacle to be worked around. I remember that night, Zoe said quietly. You made his favourite dinner because he'd had a rough week. You waited for him to come home, and when he finally did, you heated it up for him. He said the late meeting had been productive. I remembered too. I'd kissed him, told him I was proud of him for working so hard. He'd smiled at me, thanked me for being understanding, then gone upstairs to shower while I cleaned up the kitchen. The betrayal of it hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just that he was cheating. It was all the little lies, the casual deceptions, the way he'd looked me in the eye and made me believe everything was fine. I hate him, Zoe said suddenly, her voice shaking. I know I'm not supposed to say that about my own father, but I do. I hate him for doing this to you. Don't, I said, taking her hand. Don't let this make you bitter. Your father. He's made a terrible choice, maybe several terrible choices, but he's still your dad, and whatever happens between him and me, that doesn't change. How can you be so calm about this? I wasn't calm. I was the opposite of calm. Inside, I was screaming, breaking, falling apart, but I had to hold it together for Zoe, for Jake, for myself, because if I fell apart now, I wasn't sure I'd be able to put the pieces back together. I'm not calm, I admitted. I'm terrified, but I can't let fear make my decisions for me. I need to think clearly. Zoe nodded, but I could see the anger still simmering in her eyes. My daughter had always been protective, fiercely loyal. This was going to change how she saw her father, maybe permanently. We spent the next hour going through more messages. I took screenshots of everything, organized them by date. Zoe helped, her jaw set in determination. It felt surreal, like we were detectives investigating someone else's life rather than our own. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Marcus. Hey, babe, he said, and his voice sounded normal, cheerful even. I just realized I left my phone at home. Big disaster averted. I had my laptop with the presentation, so I pulled through. Can you bring it by the office? I've got some important calls this afternoon. The audacity of it stunned me. He sounded so casual, so unconcerned, like he hadn't been systematically deceiving me for months. Sure, I heard myself say. I'll be there in an hour. Yeah? You're a lifesaver. Love you. He hung up before I could respond, which was probably for the best because I didn't know if I could have said those words back to him. You're going to see him? Zoe asked. I need to return his phone, and I need to see his face when I ask him about this. I'm coming with you. Zoe. Mum, I'm coming with you. You shouldn't have to do this alone. I wanted to argue, to protect her from what was about to happen, but the look in her eyes stopped me. She needed this too. She needed to hear his explanation or his lies or whatever he was going to say. This wasn't just my marriage falling apart, it was her family. Okay, I said finally, but let me do the talking. We got ready in silence. I changed into something professional, armor for what felt like an impending battle. Zoe did the same, pulling on jeans and a sweater, tying her hair back. We looked at each other in the mirror, mother and daughter preparing to confront the man who'd broken both our hearts. The drive to Marcus's office felt longer than it should have. Zoe sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, Marcus's phone clutched in her hands like evidence at a crime scene, which, in a way, it was. What if he denies it? She asked as we pulled into the parking lot of the sleek downtown building where Marcus worked as a senior project manager for a construction firm. Then we show him the messages. What if he says they mean something different than what we think? Then we listen. But Zoe, I want you to prepare yourself for the possibility that there's no good explanation, that this is exactly what it looks like. She nodded but didn't look at me. I could see her struggling with it, wanting to believe in her father but unable to unsee what we'd discovered. We took the elevator up to the 7th floor. Marcus's assistant, Sherry, greeted us with her usual warm smile. Claire, Zoe, what a nice surprise. Marcus didn't mention you were coming by. He forgot his phone this morning, I said, holding it up. Thought we'd bring it to him. Oh, you're a saint. He's been borrowing mine to make calls. He's in his office. Go on back. We walked down the familiar hallway. I'd been here dozens of times over the years, bringing forgotten lunches, picking Marcus up for dinners out, attending company holiday parties. The walls were decorated with photos of completed projects, buildings Marcus had helped bring into existence. Evidence of his competence, his success. What a joke. His office door was open. He was at his desk, typing on his computer, his brow furrowed in concentration. He looked up when we walked in, and his face lit up with genuine pleasure. Hey, I didn't expect both of you. He stood, came around the desk, kissed me on the cheek, squeezed Zoe's shoulder. Aren't you supposed to be at school, kiddo? Wasn't feeling well, Zoe said, her voice flat. If Marcus noticed the tension, he didn't show it. Well, thanks for bringing this. I've been lost without it. He reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. Actually, Marcus, we need to talk. Something in my tone made him pause. Okay, what's going on? Is everything all right? I closed the office door behind us. Zoe positioned herself near it like a guard. Marcus looked between us, confusion giving way to concern. Claire, you're scaring me. What's wrong? I held up his phone. You got some messages this morning from someone whose number you haven't saved in your contacts. I watched the colour drain from his face, watched him try to recover, to arrange his features into something innocent, but it was too late. I'd seen the flash of panic, the moment of recognition. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice had gone thin. Don't, I said, and the word came out harder than I intended. Don't insult me by lying. I read the messages, Marcus, all of them. He sat down heavily in his chair, his hand going to his face. For a long moment he didn't speak. Zoe and I stood there, waiting, the silence stretching like a rubber band about to snap. It's not what you think, he finally said. Then tell me what it is. He looked up at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in his eyes before. Actual fear. Claire, I swear to you, it's not, I haven't... You haven't what? Slept with her? Fallen in love with her? Betrayed 16 years of marriage? My voice was rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. Dad, Zoe said, and her voice was breaking. Just tell the truth. Marcus looked at his daughter, and something in him seemed to crumble. So, I'm so sorry. You weren't supposed to... This wasn't supposed to... Who is she? I demanded. He closed his eyes. Her name is Natalie. She works for one of our subcontractors. How long? 3 months. 3 months, not 2. 3 months of lying to my face, of sleeping in our bed, of playing happy family while he built a secret life with someone else. Did you sleep with her? He hesitated just a fraction too long. Oh my God, Zoe said, backing up against the door. Oh my God, Dad. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and he was crying now, actual tears rolling down his face. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I love you, Claire. I love our family. This was just... It was a mistake, a huge mistake, and I don't know how to fix it. A mistake, I repeated. 3 months of mistakes, dozens of messages, secret meetings, hotel rooms, Marcus. You took her to hotels. I'll end it, he said desperately. Today, right now. I'll call her and end it, and we can work through this. We can go to counselling, we can... Stop, I said. I felt strangely calm now, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Just stop. Claire, please, don't throw away 16 years because of my stupidity. I can fix this. I swear I can fix this. You can't fix betrayal. You can't undo 3 months of lies. Mom, Zoe said softly, I think I need to leave. I looked at my daughter. She was pale, shaking, tears streaming down her face. I'd put her through enough. Go wait in the car, honey. I'll be down in a few minutes. She practically fled from the room. I heard her footsteps running down the hallway, heard Sherry call out in concern. When she was gone, I looked back at Marcus. He'd aged a decade in the past 10 minutes. He looked small, defeated. What happens now? He asked. I don't know. I need time to think, to process this. Are you going to leave me? The question hung in the air. Was I? Could I? The thought of dismantling our life, of splitting up our family, of starting over at 40 felt impossible. But the thought of staying with someone who could betray me so thoroughly felt equally impossible. I don't know, I said honestly. Right now, I can't even look at you. Claire, I need you to stay somewhere else tonight, maybe with your brother. I need space to figure out what I'm going to do. Please don't do this. You did this, Marcus. You made these choices. You destroyed what we had. And now, we all have to live with the consequences. I turned to leave, but he called after me. What about Zoe? What about Jake? Are you going to tell him? I don't know. I need to think about what's best for them. They need their father. I spun back around. Then you should have thought about that before you betrayed their mother. I left his office without another word. I made it to the elevator, down to the lobby, out to the parking lot. Zoe was in the car, her head in her hands, sobbing. I got in and pulled her close, and we cried together, our tears mixing, our hearts breaking in tandem. When we finally composed ourselves enough to drive home, neither of us spoke. What was there to say? Everything had changed, and we couldn't change it back. Jake came home on the bus at 3:30, bouncing with 8-year-old energy, oblivious to the fact that his world was crumbling. I made him a snack, asked about his day, pretended everything was normal. Zoe disappeared into her room. At 6, Marcus called. I didn't answer. He called again at 7, then 8. Each time I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to hear his voice, his excuses, his apologies that meant nothing. Jake was in bed by 9, still innocent, still believing in the fairy tale of our happy family. I envied him that innocence. I was sitting in the living room staring at nothing when I heard a knock on the door. I thought it might be Marcus, coming home despite my telling him to stay away, but when I looked through the peephole, I saw someone I didn't recognize. A woman. Blonde, pretty, probably in her mid-30s. She looked nervous, her hands clasped in front of her. I opened the door but kept the chain on. Can I help you? Are you Claire Donovan? She asked. Yes. I'm Natalie. The name hit me like a punch. This was her, the other woman, standing on my doorstep at 9:30 at night. You need to leave, I said, moving to close the door. Wait, please. I need to talk to you. There are things you don't know, things Marcus hasn't told you. I don't want to hear anything you have to say. He's not who you think he is, she said urgently. Please, just give me 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, against every instinct screaming at me to slam the door in her face, I found myself asking, What do you mean? She glanced around nervously, as if she thought someone might be watching. Not out here. Can I come in? I promise I'll leave after I tell you what I came to say. This was insane. I should call the police or at least tell her to get off my property. But something in her eyes made me pause. Fear. Real, genuine fear. I unlatched the chain and opened the door. 5 minutes, that's all you get. She stepped inside and I led her to the living room. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, 2 women connected by the man who'd betrayed us both. I don't know where to start, Natalie said, her hands twisting in her lap. How about with why you're sleeping with my husband? She flinched. I didn't know he was married. Not at first. He told me he was divorced, that he had 2 kids he saw on weekends. By the time I found out the truth, I was already... She stopped, swallowed hard. It doesn't matter. I'm not here to make excuses. Then why are you here? Because Marcus isn't who you think he is. The affair, it's not just about me. There's more going on, things he's involved in that... She stopped again, looking around like she was checking for cameras or listening devices. Sus, what are you talking about? Has he been bringing home more money lately? New expenses you can't explain? Withdrawals from your accounts? Now she had my attention. What do you know about our finances? More than I should. Marcus, he's been... God, this is hard to say. He's been using the affair as a cover for something else. Something illegal. My heart was pounding now. What? He's been embezzling money from his company. Hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past year. He's been funneling it through fake subcontractor accounts, and I only found out because my company was one of the ones he was using as a front. The room seemed to tilt. That's impossible. Marcus would never... I have proof, she said, pulling out her phone. Bank statements, forged contracts, everything. I made copies before I realized how dangerous this was. Dangerous? His business partner, Dennis Chen, he's the one who set this up, and he's not Claire. He's connected to some very bad people. When I started asking questions, when I told Marcus I wanted out, Dennis made it clear what would happen if I went to the police. I couldn't process what she was telling me. Marcus. Embezzling. Connected to criminals? This had to be a lie. Another layer of deception. But Natalie was showing me her phone now, scrolling through documents that looked horribly legitimate. Bank transfers, email chains, invoices for work that was never done. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Why not just go to the police? Because Dennis has people watching me, watching Marcus. If I go to the authorities, he'll know and I'll disappear. But you're his wife. You have access to his files, his computers, his accounts. You could gather the evidence and turn him in without Dennis knowing it was coming from me. You want me to help you take down my husband. I want to help you save your family before this whole thing explodes. Marcus is in over his head. In a few weeks, maybe a month, the auditors are going to catch this. When they do, Marcus is going to prison. Dennis is going to cover his tracks, and your family is going to lose everything, your house, your savings, your future. Unless you act first. I stood up, feeling dizzy. This was too much. The affair had been devastating enough, but this was something else entirely. I need you to leave, I said. Claire. Now get out of my house. She stood, reaching into her purse. I'm leaving my number. When you're ready to hear more, call me. But don't wait too long. The clock is ticking. She set a card on the coffee table and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back to me. I'm sorry, she said, for all of it, for the affair, for bringing this to your door, but I'm trying to do the right thing now. I hope you believe that. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with information I didn't want and choices I wasn't ready to make. I picked up the card she'd left. Just a phone number, nothing else. I should throw it away. I should pretend this conversation never happened. Instead, I tucked it into my pocket and went upstairs to check on my kids. Zoe was still awake, earbuds in, staring at her ceiling. Jake was asleep, his face peaceful and innocent. I stood in his doorway for a long time, watching him breathe, wondering how much longer I could protect that innocence. When I finally got to my own room, my and Marcus's room, I looked at the bed we'd shared for 16 years, the photos on the dresser, the life we'd built, and I wondered if any of it had ever been real. My phone buzzed, a message from Marcus. Claire, please, let me explain everything. I love you. I'm so sorry. I turned off my phone and lay down fully clothed on top of the covers. Tomorrow I'd figure out what to do. Tonight I just needed to survive until morning. But as I closed my eyes, all I could see were those bank statements Natalie Harai had shown me, those impossible numbers, those crimes my husband had allegedly committed. And I knew that everything I thought I knew about my life had been a lie. The question now was, what was I going to do about it? I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Marcus's face in his office, heard Natalie's urgent warnings, imagined my children's lives imploding. By the time dawn broke through the bedroom curtains, I'd made approximately 0 decisions about anything. My phone, which I'd turned back on around 4 in the morning, showed 17 missed calls from Marcus and 11 text messages that ranged from apologetic to panicked. I read through them with detached interest, like they were messages meant for someone else. I'm staying at Tom's, please just talk to me. The kids need both of us. We can fix this. Claire, I'm begging you. Let me come home and explain everything. The last one sent at 2 in the morning. I know Natalie came to see you. Whatever she told you, it's not the whole story. Please don't believe her. So he knew, which meant either he'd been watching the house or Natalie had told him. Or, and this sent a chill down my spine, someone else had been watching. I got up and made coffee, going through the motions mechanically. It was Saturday, which meant no school, no work meetings I couldn't cancel, nothing but the wreckage of my life to sort through. Jake wandered down around 7, dragging his favourite stuffed dinosaur. Where's Dad? He had to leave early for work, buddy. Big project. The lie came easily, which disturbed me. How long had Marcus been lying this easily to me? Can we go to the park today? Tyler's having a soccer game and his mom said I could come. Sure, baby, we'll figure it out. Zoe appeared next, looking like she'd slept as poorly as I had. Her eyes met mine across the kitchen, a silent communication passing between us. Are you okay? Neither of us was okay. I'm going to Emma's, she announced, grabbing a granola bar. She texted last night and I said I'd help her with her history project. Zoe, maybe you should stay. I need to get out of this house, Mum. Her voice was sharp, urgent. I can't just sit here and pretend everything's normal. I can't. I understood I wanted to escape too. Okay, but keep your phone on and be back by dinner. She left quickly, practically running out the door. I didn't have the energy to stop her. After getting Jake set up with cartoons, I finally let myself look at Natalie's card. Just a phone number. No name, no identifying information. I could throw it away. I could pretend last night never happened, focus on just the affair, just the betrayal of my marriage. But if what Natalie said was true, if Marcus was involved in something criminal, then my kids and I were in danger. Financial danger, certainly, and maybe worse. I needed to know the truth. I went upstairs to the Home Office, the small room where Marcus kept his work files and personal documents. I'd rarely gone through his things before. There'd never been a reason to. Now I opened drawers and filing cabinets with trembling hands. Most of it was innocuous. Tax returns, insurance documents, kids' school records. But in the bottom drawer of his desk, hidden under a stack of old project proposals, I found a second phone. No, a burner phone, the kind you see in crime shows. My stomach dropped. Why would Marcus need a second phone, hidden away like this? I turned it on. The battery was low but functional. There were no contacts saved, but the call history showed dozens of calls to and from the same few numbers over the past 6 months. I didn't recognize any of them. There were also text messages, but they were mostly in code, references to packages, deliveries, the usual place. Nothing explicit, but nothing innocent either. One text from 2 weeks ago caught my attention. Chen says we need to move faster. The window is closing. Chen. Dennis Chen, the business partner Natalie had mentioned, Marcus's colleague for the past 8 years, someone who'd been to our house for dinner parties, whose wife had been in my book club until she moved it away last year. I took photos of everything with my own phone, my hands shaking so badly I had to retake several shots. Then I put the burner phone back exactly where I'd found it. I needed help. I needed someone who could make sense of this, who could tell me if I was overreacting, or if my life really was as dangerous as Natalie suggested. My first instinct was to call my sister Rachel, but she lived in Seattle and had enough problems of her own. My best friend Miranda was out of town. My parents were both gone. Dad to cancer 3 years ago, Mum to a stroke last summer. I was alone in this. No, not alone. I had Natalie's number. I went to my bedroom, closed the door, and dialed before I could talk myself out of it. She answered on the first ring. Claire? Tell me everything, I said. From the beginning. She exhaled in relief. Thank you. Can we meet somewhere? It's not safe to talk about this over the phone. Not safe? Are you saying my phone is... I don't know, but Dennis is paranoid and well-connected. I'd rather be careful. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop across town in an hour. I told Jake we had to run an errand, dropped him at Tyler's house for the soccer game and playdate, and drove to the coffee shop with my heart hammering. Natalie was already there, sitting in a back corner booth, her blonde hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing sunglasses inside like a bad spy movie. When I sat down across from her, I got my first good look at her in daylight. She was younger than I'd thought, maybe 32 or 33. Pretty, in a girl-next-door way with nervous energy that suggested she hadn't slept well either. She looked nothing like me, which somehow made it worse. He hadn't even replaced me with an upgraded version. He'd just wanted something different. "Thank you for coming," she said, pushing a manila folder across the table. "This is everything I have, copies of the bank statements, the forged contracts, email chains between Marcus and Dennis." I opened the folder with dread. The first document was a bank statement for an account I'd never seen before, in Marcus's name, showing deposits totaling over $600,000 in the past year. Where did this money come from? Fake subcontractor invoices. Dennis would have Marcus approve payments to shell companies they'd set up. The companies don't actually exist, they're just bank accounts Dennis controls. The money gets split between them, laundered through various channels. And his company hasn't noticed? The construction firm is huge, with dozens of projects running simultaneously. Marcus is senior enough that his approval alone is sufficient for payments under a certain amount. Dennis set it up so the individual invoices stayed just below the threshold that would trigger additional oversight. I felt sick. How did you figure this out? My company, we're a legitimate electrical subcontractor. Dennis approached me 6 months ago, said he had some off-the-books work that paid well. At first I thought it was just side jobs, under-the-table stuff. But then I started noticing invoices for work we never did, payments for materials we never ordered. And Marcus? She looked away. We met at a company event 9 months ago. He pursued me pretty aggressively. I was flattered. He was charming, successful, said all the right things. By the time I realized he was married, I'd already developed feelings. And by then I'd also started to figure out what he and Dennis were doing. So he seduced you to keep you quiet. Maybe. Or maybe the feelings were real and the timing was just convenient. I've stopped trying to figure out what's real with Marcus. He's a very good liar. That much I'd learned. Why hasn't Dennis just fired you or worse? Because firing me would raise questions. And I'm useful to them. My company provides legitimate cover for some of their actual work. As long as I keep my mouth shut, everyone wins. Except you're not keeping your mouth shut. You're here, telling me all of this. She leaned forward. Because 3 weeks ago, Dennis made it clear that the endgame is coming soon. They're planning one final massive withdrawal, close to $2 million, and then they're going to disappear. Marcus is going to take all the blame. Dennis has set it up so that all the evidence points to Marcus working alone. Why would Marcus agree to that? He doesn't know. He thinks they're partners, that they'll split everything and retire early. He has no idea Dennis is setting him up to be the fool guy. My mind was reeling. How do you know all this? I overheard a phone call. Dennis was in my office. He comes by sometimes to check on things, make sure I'm staying in line, and he got a call from someone. I only heard his side, but it was clear. He was talking about Marcus like he was disposable, about how everything's in Donovan's name, and how the evidence trail leads straight to him. And you're sure Marcus doesn't know? Positive. I tried to warn him, actually. That's what my messages were about yesterday. I told him we needed to talk, that Dennis wasn't who he thought. But Marcus didn't want to hear it. He's so convinced he's in control, that he's the clever one pulling off the perfect crime. I looked down at the folder again, at the evidence of my husband's crimes. If you go to the police with this, you'd be implicating yourself. I know. That's why I need you to do it. You could claim you found these documents, that you had no idea what your husband was doing. You'd have plausible deniability. And what happens to you? I disappear. I've been planning it for weeks. I have enough money saved to start over somewhere far from here, but I needed to warn you first. You and your kids don't deserve to go down with him. I wanted to believe her, but I'd spent the last 16 years believing Marcus, and look where that had gotten me. How do I know this is real? That you're not lying, or that you're not working with Dennis to set Marcus up even more? She reached into her purse and pulled out a small recording device. I recorded Dennis's phone call. You can listen for yourself. She pressed play, and I heard a man's voice, Dennis's voice. I recognized it from company parties, talking casually about destroying someone's life. Marcus thinks he's so smart, but he's sloppy. Every invoice, every transfer, it all leads back to him. When the audit happens, they'll have him dead to rights. What about the woman? Another voice asked. Natalie? She's scared enough to keep quiet. And if she doesn't, well, we have other ways of handling problems. The recording ended. Natalie was watching me carefully. You see, this is what we're dealing with. These aren't just white-collar criminals cooking the books. Dennis has connections to serious people, people who don't leave loose ends. I felt cold all over. My kids. If Marcus goes down, if Dennis thinks we're a threat, that's why you need to move first. Get the evidence to the FBI, get witness protection if you need it, but do it before the final transfer happens, because once that money disappears and Marcus takes the fall, Dennis will make sure there are no witnesses who can contradict his story. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Please, Claire, I love you. Let me fix this. I showed it to Natalie. She laughed bitterly. He has no idea how much trouble he's in. Should I respond? Should I warn him about Dennis? Do you want to save him? Did I? 24 hours ago, the answer would have been an automatic yes. Now I didn't know. He'd betrayed me. He'd committed crimes. He'd put our family in danger. But he was also the father of my children, the man who'd held my hand through 2 difficult pregnancies, who'd built Jake's treehouse and taught Zoe to ride a bike. 16 years of history didn't just disappear, even when they were built on lies. I don't know what I want, I admitted. Natalie nodded. That's honest. Look, I know this is overwhelming, but you need to make a decision soon. The final transfer is scheduled for next Friday. After that, everything goes to hell. Next Friday, that's 6 days. 6 days to decide if you're going to save your family or go down with your husband. I know which I'd choose. But it was easy for her to say. She didn't have 16 years of memories. She didn't have children who loved their father. She didn't have to look Jake in the eye and explain why Daddy was going to prison. I need time to think, I said. You don't have much, but I understand. She slid a second card across the table. This is a prepaid phone number. If you need to reach me and you think your regular phone might be compromised, use this. You really think they're monitoring my phone? I think Dennis doesn't take chances, and right now, you're married to his accomplice. Better safe than sorry. We parted ways in the parking lot. I sat in my car for a long time, staring at the folder full of evidence, at my phone with Marcus's pleading messages, at the steering wheel my hands couldn't quite grip. I needed advice. I needed perspective. I needed someone who understood both the legal implications and the human cost. I needed a lawyer. My friend Miranda had used a divorce attorney last year when her marriage fell apart. I still had the woman's card somewhere, Karen something. I found it in my wallet and called before I could second-guess myself. Surprisingly, Karen answered on a Saturday afternoon. After I explained in very general terms that I needed to discuss my marriage and some potential legal issues, she agreed to see me Monday morning. Monday. 2 days away, 2 days to keep pretending everything was fine while my world collapsed. I picked Jake up from his playdate, listening to him chatter excitedly about soccer and how Tyler's mom had bought them ice cream. His innocence was a knife in my heart. When we got home, Zoe was already there, sitting on the front porch with her arms wrapped around her knees. Dad's been calling me, she said as soon as Jake ran inside. What should I tell him? What do you want to tell him? That I hate him. That he's ruined everything. That I'll never forgive him. Then maybe don't answer. But what if he's still my dad, right? Even if he's a cheating liar, he's still my dad. I sat down next to her on the porch. He is. And that makes this harder, not easier. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to not want to talk to him. But you're also allowed to miss him, or love him, or want things to be different. All those feelings can exist at the same time. Do you still love him? The question caught me off guard. Did I? Could you love someone who'd betrayed you so completely? I love the person I thought he was, I said carefully. I don't know if that person ever really existed. Zoe leaned her head on my shoulder. Everything's so messed up. I know, baby, but we're going to get through it. I promise you that. But even as I said it, I wondered if it was a promise I could keep. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat down at the kitchen table with Natalie's folder and started reading through every document: bank statements, forged invoices, email chains about deliveries, and packages. A pattern emerged, clear and damning. Marcus had been stealing from his company for over a year. Hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled through fake accounts. And if Natalie was right, Dennis Chen was setting him up to take all the blame. I thought about calling Marcus, asking him to explain, but what could he say? The evidence was right here, undeniable. Around midnight, I heard a car in the driveway. I looked out the window and saw Marcus's sedan pulling up. My heart jumped into my throat. He got out slowly, like a man approaching his execution. He looked terrible. Rumpled clothes, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes. He saw me watching and raised a hand in a tentative wave. I met him at the door before he could knock and wake the kids. "What are you doing here?" I whispered. "I needed to see you, to talk. Please, Claire, just give me a chance to explain." Against my better judgment, I stepped outside, closing the door quietly behind me. We stood on the porch in the cool night air, face to face for the first time since his office. Explain what? The affair? The lies? Which part do you want to explain first? All of it. Everything. I know you're angry. Angry doesn't even begin to cover it. I know, but you have to understand the affair. It wasn't about you. You're perfect. You're everything I ever wanted. I felt trapped, like my life was on rails, work, home, kids, repeat. And Natalie, she made me feel alive, I supplied bitterly. That's what you told her, that she made you feel alive, which I guess means I make you feel dead. He flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair. You don't get to talk about fair after what you've done. I'll end it. I already told her it's over. I want to fix our marriage. I want to fix us. It's too late for that. It's never too late. We have 16 years together, 2 kids, a whole life. That has to count for something. It did count for something, and then you threw it away. He grabbed my hands. I pulled away. Claire, please, I'm begging you, don't give up on us. Tell me about Dennis Chen, I said suddenly. His face went pale. What about him? Tell me what you two have been doing, the embezzlement, the fake invoices, the shell companies. I watched him process that I knew, watched the calculations happen behind his eyes, deny, minimize, redirect. I don't know what you're talking about. I have proof, Marcus. Bank statements, contracts, everything. Where did you... Natalie. Did Natalie tell you that? You can't believe her. She's vindictive. She's trying to cause problems because I ended things. I found your burner phone in your desk with texts about packages and deliveries and Dennis saying you need to move faster. He sagged against the porch railing. Oh, God, tell me the truth. All of it. Maybe it's too late for us, but you at least owe me the truth. He was quiet for a long time. I could almost see him weighing his options, deciding what lie might still work, what truth he could afford to admit. Finally, he spoke. It started small. Dennis knew I was stressed about money. Zoe's orthodontist, Jake's therapies. Your business expansion loan. He offered a way to make some extra cash. Just a few invoices here and there, nothing major. I told myself it wasn't really stealing, just gaming the system a little. And then it got bigger. Dennis kept pushing for more. Said we could make enough to retire early, give the kids everything, and at first it felt, I know this sounds horrible, but it felt exciting. Like I was doing something daring instead of just being boring Marcus Donovan, project manager, husband, dad. When were you planning to tell me? I wasn't. I was going to handle it quietly, salt away the money, and then surprise you with early retirement, trips to Europe, all the things we've talked about but couldn't afford. You were going to fund our dreams with stolen money. I wasn't thinking clearly. I see that now. What about the final transfer, the $2 million? His head snapped up. How do you know about that? So it's true. Claire, you don't understand. That's our out. Dennis and I split that, pay back what we took with interest, and walk away clean. Nobody gets hurt. Except Dennis is setting you up. All the evidence points to you working alone. When the audit happens, you're going to prison and Dennis walks away free. That's insane. Dennis is my friend, my partner. Listen to yourself. You've been lying to me for months, stealing from your company, having an affair, and you think Dennis is the one person who'd never betray you? He looked genuinely shaken. You're wrong. You have to be wrong. I have a recording. Dennis on the phone talking about how you're the fool guy. I don't believe you. Then you're a fool. We stared at each other. I saw the moment he realized I was serious, that this wasn't a bluff or a misunderstanding. I saw fear replace denial in his eyes. What am I supposed to do? He asked quietly. You're supposed to turn yourself in, cooperate with authorities, try to save yourself before this gets even worse. If I do that, I lose everything. My career, my reputation, my freedom. I could go to prison for years. You've already lost everything. You just don't realize it yet. Claire, go back to your brother's house. On Monday, I'm seeing a lawyer. We'll figure out next steps. But you need to understand. Our marriage is over. Whether you go to prison or not, whether you fix this mess or not, you and I are done. He started crying then, real tears, his body shaking with sobs. Part of me wanted to comfort him, the part that remembered 16 years of loving him, but a stronger part stood firm. I'm so sorry, he choked out, for all of it. You deserved so much better. Yes, I said simply, I did. He left a few minutes later, driving away into the night. I went back inside, checked on the kids, both sound asleep, mercifully oblivious, and collapsed onto the couch. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Did you talk to him? Did he listen? N. So Natalie was monitoring the situation. How? I typed back. He knows about the setup. Doesn't believe it. The response came quickly. Then he's going to learn the hard way. Be careful, Claire. Dennis won't like that Marcus knows. Are you saying we're in danger? I'm saying don't trust anyone and watch your back. I locked all the doors and windows, checked them twice, and sat up until dawn with a baseball bat across my lap, jumping at every noise. Sunday crawled by. Marcus called repeatedly. I didn't answer. Zoe was sullen and withdrawn. Jake asked why Daddy wasn't home, and I made up stories about work emergencies. I was becoming as good a liar as Marcus. That evening, as I was making dinner, there was a knock at the door. Through the peephole, I saw Dennis Chen. My blood ran cold. What was he doing here? I didn't answer. He knocked again, harder. Claire, I know you're home. I just want to talk. Go away, I called through the door. Whatever you're selling, I'm not interested. This is about Marcus, about his situation. I think we should discuss it before things get out of hand. I have nothing to say to you. Actually, you have quite a lot to say. Or rather, you have quite a lot of information that belongs to me. I'd like it back. The folder. He knew about the folder Natalie had given me. I don't know what you're talking about. Claire, don't insult my intelligence. Natalie paid you a visit. She gave you some documents. Those documents are private property, and I'd appreciate their return. Leave my property or I'm calling the police. The police? Really? You want to involve them in this? Because I guarantee that would end poorly for everyone involved, especially Marcus, and especially your kids. The threat was unmistakable. My hand tightened on my phone. Stay away from my children. Then cooperate, return the documents. Forget this conversation ever happened. It's simple. Get off my porch. I'm trying to help you, Claire. You have no idea what you've stumbled into. Marcus made some poor choices, yes, but they're fixable. If you stay quiet, if you let me handle this, your family can walk away intact. But if you make trouble... I said leave. I heard Zoe's footsteps on the stairs behind me. Mom? Whose? Go back to your room, I snapped, more harshly than I intended. She froze, confused, but something in my expression made her turn around and retreat upstairs. When I looked back through the peephole, Dennis was still standing there, his expression pleasant but his eyes cold. You have until Tuesday, he said calmly. Return the documents. Keep your mouth shut. Or face the consequences. The choice is yours. He walked away casually like we'd just had a pleasant neighbourly chat. I watched him get into his expensive car and drive away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely dial. I called Natalie's prepaid number. He was just here, I said when she answered. Dennis, he threatened my kids. Where are you now? Home, he left. Pack a bag. Get the kids and get out of there. Now. What? I can't just... Claire, listen to me. If Dennis came to your house personally, you're in immediate danger. He's tying up loose ends. You need to disappear for a few days until we can get you to the FBI. The FBI, that's where you're going Monday. I've already contacted an agent I trust, but you need to survive until then. So pack a bag, get your kids, and go somewhere Dennis can't find you. Do you understand? I understood. For the first time, I truly understood the magnitude of what I'd stepped into. Okay, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Okay. Where should I go? Do you have family out of town, friends Dennis wouldn't know about? I thought frantically. Rachel in Seattle was the obvious choice, but Marcus knew about her. Most of my friends were local, part of our suburban community that Dennis could easily trace. Wait. My aunt, my mum's sister, she lives 2 hours north, in a retirement community. I haven't seen her in years. Marcus has probably forgotten she exists. Perfect. Go there. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Don't use credit cards. They can be traced. Just drive and don't look back. What about you? I'm already gone. I left town this morning. I'm calling from a truck stop 3 states away. But the FBI meeting, I've arranged everything remotely. The agent will meet you Monday morning, 10 a.m., at the Federal Building downtown. His name is Agent Morrison. I've sent him the evidence and he's expecting you, but Claire, until you're in FBI custody, you're vulnerable. So stay hidden. What if Marcus tries to find us? Block his number. Don't answer calls from anyone you don't recognize. And Claire? I'm sorry. For everything. I know this isn't what you signed up for. None of us did. After we hung up, I stood in the kitchen trying to process everything. Then I went into action. I woke up both kids, told them we were taking an unexpected trip to see Aunt Beverly. Jake was excited. Adventure. Zoe was suspicious but didn't argue. We packed quickly, essentials only. As we were loading the car, I saw a vehicle parked down the street, just sitting there, idling. I couldn't see the driver clearly, but I didn't need to. Get in, I told the kids. Buckle up. Now. We pulled out of the driveway fast. The car behind us started moving, following us. My heart was pounding. I took a sudden turn, then another. The car stayed with us. We weren't even pretending anymore. Mum, Zoe's voice was scared. Why is that car... Don't worry about it, I said, though my own voice was shaking. Everything's fine. I drove randomly for 20 minutes, taking turns, doubling back, trying to lose our tail. Finally, I pulled into a busy shopping centre parking lot and lost them in the maze of vehicles. We sat there for 10 minutes, making sure they were really gone, before I got back on the road and headed north towards Aunt Beverly's. The kids fell asleep in the back around midnight. I drove through the darkness, constantly checking my rearview mirror, my hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. My phone rang. Marcus. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Then again. Finally, I answered. What? Where are you? His voice was frantic. I went by the house. You're not there. Claire, where are you? Somewhere you can't find us. What the hell is going on? Dennis called me, said you had some documents that belonged to him, said you were making trouble. Claire, what did you do? What did I do? Are you serious right now? You need to come home. We need to talk about this, figure out a plan. Dennis threatened our children, Marcus. He showed up at our house and threatened Jake and Zoe. Silence. Then, he wouldn't do that. Dennis is a criminal. And so are you. And I'm not letting my kids anywhere near this mess until it's resolved. Where are you taking them? Away from you? Away from Dennis? Away from all of this? Claire, please be reasonable. I hung up, blocked his number, and kept driving. We arrived at Aunt Beverly's around 2 a.m. She answered the door in her bathrobe, confused but welcoming. I gave her a heavily edited version of events, marital trouble, needed space, and she set us up in her spare rooms without too many questions. The kids were exhausted. I tucked them in, kissed their foreheads, and promised that everything would be okay. Then I sat in Beverly's kitchen drinking terrible instant coffee and waited for morning. In 6 hours, I'd be meeting with the FBI. In 6 hours, I'd be turning in my husband and dismantling my entire life. I thought about Marcus, about the man I'd married versus the man he'd become, about 16 years of memories that were now tainted by lies. I thought about Natalie, somewhere on the road running from the same mess we'd all created together. And I thought about my kids sleeping peacefully upstairs, still innocent enough to believe their mother could fix anything. I hoped they were right, because tomorrow everything would change again.